Hello everyone, welcome back to the Eden Room. Vicky Green, the incredible astrologer, business astrologer, tarot reader, will be joining me any moment, and we're going to be taking you through this new moon in Aries session today. It's the start of the new astrological year. It's a very auspicious new moon. It's a very potent new moon. So say hi if you're joining us live, and hi to you. Welcome if you're watching on the replay. Here's Vicky now. Oh, we're lovely. Good morning. Well, midday. Good afternoon, 1 o'clock. What time is it? Hello. I know what day it is. I just don't know what time it is. Hi, Vicky, love. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. It is midday without British summer time, so you're kind of right.
Kind of right. I'm okay. I don't mind being wrong. I'm all right. I'm used to being out of time. Vicky, welcome back. I just want to say how grateful I am for these sessions. They ground me. They make me feel more open to life, a little bit more kind of fluid as well. It's an interesting paradox. I feel more grounded and more fluid, and I've been working a lot lately on peeling off some layers where I get a bit rigid in my mind. I know we're in the Aries season. It's a lot about the head, the mind, the thoughts. I know for me this weekend I was polaxed basically. I spent a lot of it in bed and napping and resting and feeling crazy, like a whole layer of the onion was getting peeled off. Does that have anything to do with the energies of today?
That has absolutely to do with what we'll be talking about, because so not only are there all sorts of good things that normally come with a new moon, and we're talking about Aries, but actually this new moon in Aries is the start of a whole lunar year.
Yeah.
So as much as we were talking about the end of Pisces going into Aries, that was like the sun's version of it. In some ways this is like the moon's version. So we have just been through not just sort of the dark moon of this particular sort of 1 month cycle, 1 lunar month cycle, but it's like for the whole year.
Oh my god, that makes so much sense, because I couldn't quite understand. I was like, I thought we'd done this bit. I thought we'd done the like end of the astrological year. So the sun has an astrological year and the moon has like a lunation year as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
That makes
so we've just it's been a duvet weekend here, I must admit.
Yeah, say hi in the chat. Let us know in the chat if you had to have a bit of a duvet weekend this weekend. And hey everyone who's watching, it's lovely for you to be with us. I hope you're enjoying these new and full moon sessions as much as I am, and I know you are, Vicky. I'm finding it so fulfilling and really helpful. So okay, so that wasn't just me then who got hit by that dark moon over the weekend.
No. Plenty of material to talk about in terms of healing generally, because Chiron, the asteroid that's associated with the wounded healer, is in Aries. So everything that we're looking at through this sort of little Aries season has got that flavour to it. So there's the down, there's the up. There's lots of huge opportunity for healing. But it does mean that there's just a few moments probably when we feel a little bit like ouch.
Yeah. It does feel like that, and I don't want to hog the time because I just love listening to you, to be honest. But one of the things that's been coming up for me that I think might be relevant for the collective is like because there's a lot of goal setting at this time of year with Aries, and Aries is that goal setting, but where it's like manifesting versus manufacturing, and how many of my goals used to be like, hit this income thing, or have this many followers, or do this kind of experience. And although I think I'm probably one of the more soulful facilitators out there was still always like an element of like, okay, I want this and I want to go there and I want to do this and I want to see that. And now I just feel like most of my goals are kind of like, I'd like to get out the matrix. I'd like to have a vinyl record player. I want to grow some vegetables. It's like there's been this huge change from the pandemic and from the last year. I'm not saying I didn't have those desires in me before, but it's just sort of like gone way back into like who I was as a teenager, like before any conditioning, before any personal development, before any relation, big romances, before loads of marketing in my face telling me what I need and want, and giving more traction to how I feel than how I look. And that might sound obvious to some people, but for me it was really big. I went to a male boarding school. There was 50 girls and 450 boys, and so we were sort of every mealtime was like being on you know, a parade, like, and you got teased and you had to look a certain way, and you know, even just things like letting my little wisdom highlights coming through has been interesting for me. And I've been like, well, who's this emerging? And I think there's this time of emergence now where we get to make a call. Like today, everything opens up. Do I go book in the hair salon and cover this up and go back to like caring more about how I look than how I feel? Because I don't have any judgment on what we do, but sometimes those chemicals and stuff, I think, like literally mess with your head, you know. And I live this natural lifestyle, so I'm just playing with these ideas. I don't know where I'm going to end up, but this is a lot of what I've been working with. So I'm just curious as to like what your take on that all is.
Okay, so I think that what you're describing sounds absolutely in tune with the times and this very specific time. So generally with an Aries new moon, so that's where the sun and the moon come together. So it's the start of a new cycle in Aries. Aries, the first sign of the zodiac. So typically this is all about, you know, making a start, making a break for it. Aries, the innovator. You know, it's this time of year when, you know, we've got past that sort of very early spring where it's just the very first blossom and bulbs. And we can see that it's going to be all systems go in nature. And we have that same vibe. It's the kind of time where in the UK, we may be lucky enough to start going outdoors, even though it's been cold. We've had snow, but still, in theory, April, you know, new moon in Aries should be, you know, taking the bull by the horns type stuff, ready for Taurus, but definitely getting out there and starting to play a bit more. And you know, it's all about action and activity. This year, I think it's a really interesting mix. So there are obviously signs of life. I think it's no coincidence that we have this new moon today, which coincides with opening up after lockdown.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's in the air of people being able to get out, like literally, as well as sort of metaphysically in terms of what they might want to do. But there are some other currents in there, and I think it's really important we do talk about that. So looking historically, not that historically, 1 year ago, the new moon in Aries was right at the beginning of lockdown. So it was on the 24th of March, and certainly in England, the lockdown was announced on the 23rd of March.
Wow.
So we have had one full lunar year, which has had the most profound impact on us.
Yeah.
And it's been, you know, that cycle, that also coincided just the day before, on the 22nd, Saturn went into Aquarius. And I think we might have talked before about Saturn in Aquarius, sort of social distancing, you know, Aquarius, all things sort of community minded, you know, utopian, trying to make the world a better place. Saturn, that feeling of responsibility, restrictiveness, you know, authority coming in, but also having to deal with our own self-mastery. So we've had a full lunar year of this imprint of, you know, really some isolation, some having time with our thoughts. Saturn and Aquarius, sort of very intellectual, plenty of time to be doing the bigger thinking as well as the small stuff. And this sort of this lunar vibe of really what matters to us and who are we. And so it's quite interesting. I know we've talked before about the Aries energy and the I am. With a lunar tint on it, it's like, but who am I really? Who am I on the inside? So we're talking about the action, going out and doing things, and that's an important part of it. But I think this year more than ever, after the last year of reflection, lunar term, you know, we've really been digging within, and now it's time to actually think, okay, how do I bring the real me out into the world, and so that my action is aligned? So we've almost had not just 1 month's worth of prep, we've had a year's worth of prep. And I think it's probably more scary than any of us perhaps would have accepted or expected to get to that point where it's like, so who is it that's taking the first step even? I know we did our session the other week on the Fool, and, you know, we all identify with that thought of sometimes you have to take the big leap. But it's almost, this is just a quick cross-check on the doors of who is it that's leaping, not just where am I going, but actually who is it that's calling the shots here? Which part of me am I the whole me? And this beautiful thing of the sun and moon coming together like alchemy gives us the chance to think, who am I deep down? You know, what is the alpha and omega of me in my essence? so that every action I take reflects who I am.
Oh my God, it's so good. Who is it that is leaping? Less about where am I going, but like, who is leaping and why is she leaping or he leaping? And then maybe the where is, it just shows itself. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is even, yes, who is it that's stepping off that cliff edge onto whatever it is? Incredibly exciting. I mean, I love your term about the manufacturing versus the manifesting. Like, in terms of manifesting, this is where the really big juice comes, because we know when we're internally aligned that stuff does just naturally happen. Gosh, that's a challenge to this Aries vibe. So it does mess with our heads a little bit to be thinking like, but I want to go do stuff.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't discourage anyone for doing things that do feel guided, and of course that's part of it. But I think that awareness, and this probably is where, I mean, I know we've sort of talked a little bit before, but there's a little stellium, so there's a little group of planets in Aries at the moment. So along with this new moon, we also have Venus at 26 degrees Aries. So the new moon, I should have said, was at 23 degrees Aries. So it's conjunct Venus, very important, the planet of love in the mix. So, and also obviously representing all things feminine. So really, really doubly important when we're going within, that we're conscious of self-love. I mean, that's almost the archetype, the new moon with that. And also Mercury's in there at 14 degrees. So that's also making us very interesting when you were saying about the head. So we've got this mutual reception going on. So we've got the ruler of Aries is Mars in Gemini. The ruler of Gemini, Mercury, is in Aries. So those two together are messing with our heads, getting us to think in the new way.
Wow.
Because, you know, we cannot avoid the fact we're in a new world. And suddenly all this sort of internal dialogue is going on with these different planets. And the really important thing is to make sure it's always grounded in that sense of self, because with all of those, we call them the inner planets. So the planets that are sort of between Earth and the Sun. So we've got Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, all this very personal stuff. The risk is getting so much in our heads that we actually forget to feel into who we are. So this current way of living, we can't just do it up there, we've got to do it from here. And that's probably the biggest ticket moving forward. And as we see Venus moving into Taurus this week, when the energy will start changing, you know, we're actually getting prepared for a much more heart-centered way of living. So almost this little period now is making sure we're doing that cross-check on the doors of, have I set my intentions right? Because actually we're going to start building foundations, and it's going to be a new way of building as Venus goes into Taurus on Wednesday. But right now it's just that sort of final feeling of, I'm conscious, that's positive use of the head, I'm conscious of who I am and where I'm heading and why I want to do what I want to do.
That is so good. And if anyone is watching and resonating, we love hearing from you. So keep the comments flowing. And if you missed the full event, it's on our YouTube channel, it's in the Eden Room. Go and catch it up, because I think it's really a good opening to these April energies, you know, and everything that Vicky is saying. If you did watch it and you're here with us and you're like on this train and like feeling this, please, we love hearing from you. Hi Jane, Jane feels this so much. Hi Debs, hi Kai, hi everyone. It's just, you know, I think what I want to say, just speaking into this space, because we have to believe with what you're saying, we have to believe then that these parts of us that we might have kept hidden or been afraid, like that doesn't work, that's not proper, that's not safe, that they will be supported if we allow ourselves to work from that place. Like what you're saying, what I'm hearing you say is that you can't just do everything from up here. Part of this new age, part of this new time, the new age in Aquarius is about operating differently. And I always compare it to the difference between driving a car where you can go forward, back, left and right, to flying a spaceship where you can kind of go anywhere in the galaxy in like a million different dimensions and directions. And we're still flying the spaceship like we used to drive a car, thinking like, and it's like, what if you just go here? What if you just press that button? Like, what if you let your mind off the car manual and actually get on the spaceship manual and then start to fly this thing, you know, like, let's see what it can do. Let's open her up. But it's a different type of world, as you say. So humanity and the planet have this evolutionary path, I feel. And I think what we all need to recognize is that the dreams in our hearts that might not make sense logically, or might not seem probable or possible based on our past, now everything has changed. So that it's the difference between, if I can put it into like a real world thing, it's the difference between like going on 100 dates with 100 dud men and wondering like, why am I still alone, to getting really aligned, feeling chosen, having self-love, having self-worth, downloading one app, having a chat with one guy, he's the guy, meeting him, get married, happily ever after, right? Like that's the kind of what we're talking about.
That is exactly what we're talking about.
It's like that level of alignment creates those results.
Absolutely. And in fact, almost for those of us that work with the energies quite a bit, I would say that we're getting almost the message that second best isn't good enough. That not holding out for the dreams isn't going to work anymore. It's like I feel more than ever that we're being challenged to say, to really claim the whole of our vision. And that in and of itself is scary.
Yeah.
Like the journey that we're starting out on today, like literally today, first day of the new lunar year. So I've talked a bit about the last one, you know, which has been very much against this sort of lockdown and pandemic vibe where it was going forward. I'm not saying that some of those things aren't still in the environment, but my goodness, are we now getting encouraged to literally sort of come out as ourselves and to move forward with the knowledge that that vision is kind of now, that's the new expectation. It's like being close is not going to be good enough. It's not just that it isn't going to satisfy us, but I increasingly get the feeling with the energy now that we're almost like we're coming out of a storm. So it's been so turbulent over this last lunar year that now we're kind of, it's almost like we're coming out and we're saying, oh, you know, what trees are left? Is the barn still standing? You know, like what's left? What needs to be taken down? What needs to be repaired? What needs to be built? Yeah. And the vibe that I'm getting is that what we're going to build, what we're going to end up with is going to be so much more glorious than we possibly could have imagined. But where we're standing today, it's still a bit, you know, it's still a bit nervy in terms of really. But actually, I think we'll find that if it wasn't going to make the quality cut, the chances are it's not going to, it's either not here already or it's not going to stay the course. So more than ever, we're going up each month, we're going up a spiral. I know we have this conversation a few times, we do new moon, full moon, and each time it feels a little bit more, you know, sort of up leveled. Well, here we go again, you know, this is another whole level of being able to unlock the things that make our hearts sing. Right. I mean, you know, it can feel like it's a bit mean when stuff isn't working out the way we thought it would, but actually it's like, wow, you know, we are creating space now. This is the first day of creating a new container of space and time for what we truly want to be able to manifest for us and through us. Wow.
So then for everybody watching this, it's like the ultimate palette cleanse where you drop into your heart, your body, and you set up this new space, and it almost like it feels like a fresh piece of paper can symbolize the coming year, and almost like in this non-linear way to just be writing down what you love. You know, that's the best way to come at it, right? Like, what do I love? What do I want more of in my life? And it's like that parable of the fisherman, you know, and he's in Italy or whatever, catching fish, and the American tourist comes up to him and is like, hey, you know, if you got some more fishing boats and you could have a whole team of boats and you could make millions of pounds, and then you could just sit here and you could just fish. And he's like, but why would I want to do that? I'm already sitting here fishing. And it's like, what is it that needs to go in your pot that is vital and primary and love for you, the real dreams of your heart, not the fantasies of your mind or the kind of like out there world, but your inner world. Do a little heart dump on the page and allow yourself just to sit in that container for this new moon, and then Aries energy is going to come in and help you start taking those steps and showing you the plans to make desires occur. Like, because it's almost this, I just feel the switch unfolding right now. It's like really the downloads, you know, it's just so much popping through the ground.
That's so beautiful. And actually, it's interesting you said about go back to a teenager. I've been getting vibes of actually sort of almost like being reborn.
Yes.
It's a rebirth moment.
Totally.
right back to coming straight out. I mean, because Aries New Moon at first day of lunar year, it's like bang, you know, you're here, you arrive, you're pure you.
Totally. Yes, Vicky. This is it. This is everything. And we've just done the event series for the next 2 months, and it's called The Rebirth of You. So we're doing the rebirth of your hair, the rebirth of your, like a facial rebirth, your skin rebirth, your body rebirth, your love rebirth, your sex rebirth, your union rebirth. Like, we're doing this as a theme in the Eden Room the next month or two. So I'm just loving that you're so tapped in with that energy, because it takes, now here's the piece, right? I hear you saying all that, and what I think needs to be present is the courage that it takes. When we've done life, maybe always thinking of what other people need, or maybe always wanting validation from the external, and now we're making this foolish leap of faith into like, actually, this is what I really like, and actually, I kind of like my grey hair, and actually, like, who is this emerging and unfolding and rebirthing here? It takes such courage. Because we're going to be bumping up against, you know, the mother going, oh, don't let your hair go grey, darling. No, you're not old enough to go grey. You're going to look so old, you know, and all those things. And it's like, well, how now do we get the courage to be that real self that you say, this rebirth of really you, right?
Yeah, that is so true. And just looking back, it reminded me of, so we did the full moon in Libra, which preceded, so that was the last full moon, and then we've got the new moon. But actually that full moon really shone a light. So Libra, that sort of relationship, how we're mirrored by the world. And so we had sun opposite moon, but in that little mix with the sun, we had Venus, which was beautiful, but also Chiron, all three on 9 degrees. And it's almost like the last 2 weeks have had a light shone on that discomfort of how do we disentangle how we feel, how we look, how we feel on the inside, and all that wounding. Some of it really family-based wounding, or like really early years wounding, because every time that Chiron and the moon are in a relationship, you know, that's all of our inherited thoughts, patterns, habits. So it does take huge courage to start stepping forward. It's not something in the current energy that we can force ourselves to do, right? The only way to get that courage is to feel into it and give ourselves the permission to acknowledge where we hurt.
Yeah.
And keep doing it. It cannot be a head base, oh, it'll all be all right, I'll take a jump and then I'll it's not feel the fear and do it anyway in the old-fashioned way, is my view. Like we're too evolved. We know that there's too many good sensible reasons why our souls have come up are feeling a little bit bruised, if you like.
Yeah.
You know, so we almost acknowledge the wound or the bruise, and then still keep going because we're worth it. It's a positive affirmation based courage, rather than feeling that, you know, it's not the army major in our ear anymore. It's not us beating ourselves up to go and do stuff. It's quite the opposite. It's the nurturing, it's the encouraging. It's a much more divine feminine way of saying, let's try, let's do it. If you fall over, we'll just give it another go. You know, it's that beautiful, it's that nurturing, that because obviously, you know, when we arrive, when we're so little, we need that support. Well, there's part of us still needs that support.
Well, and part of us in this rebirth is a brand new being. I feel so sensitive at the moment. Like, I do feel really like a newborn, you know, like everything's way more I'm aware of. And I love what you're saying, because it's almost like this reparenting, and it's not this like as you say, like boot camp military, like get on with it, rigid, suck it up, deal with it. It's this mothering of like, of course you feel a little unsettled right now. And I've been using Kai, our parent and teen and coach, child expert, so much. Like, I've just been reparenting, remothering, like, you can do this, like, take a deep breath, you know, answer the thing, deal with the situation. And it's been so beautiful. And it's interesting because Gael is also talking about the space and how we need to rebirth our space. So we're rebirthing like the way we kind of parent ourselves, like our inner voice, how we talk to ourselves, getting rid of this sort of critical, hard-handed, heavy, judgmental, militant, it must be like this, rigid voice, repairing it and replacing it with a softness, with a nurturing, with a tending and a gentleness. And then I love the physical expression of that, right? So Gael is talking about the space, and definitely Gael, we're talking this week, aren't we, about you joining this season and doing a rebirth of the space, and because it's that time of year where we're spring cleaning and we've changed, and it's like, what actually reflects this? But this new self, to me, it just feels like the true self. Like the new you is just the true you that's always been there without all the masks and stories and kind of like pretense, you know, the trying.
Totally. And I believe, so there is something wonderfully radical about this new moon in Aries, right? Which is kind of like, it's the truth and nothing but the truth. But that, you know, so in some ways it's making us wake up to certain things that maybe we've been kind of trying to blot out. But on the other side, it's true love. It's our true purpose. You know, it's who we truly are. So there's, you know, there's this absolute sort of alchemical touchstone about it that we know then when you know, we feel the difference, when it feels like, and I think that's what helps with the courage, right? So we're not sort of stepping off blindly, not understanding anything about it. It's like we've all been around at least one spiral now. We've had the last lunar year to really be thinking about it all. Now we're getting so much more in alignment that when we'll start knowing who we are when we're being reborn, and we'll start being able to feel our way. And almost that is the most important. It's almost how, I mean, I appreciate we've just come out of the dark moon, but it's how do we see in the dark? How do we know when something is right? And actually it is that complete internal sense. And I think that almost that's the energy that we're kicking off probably the next 3 months with. We're going to come into the eclipse cycle fairly soon, sort of May, June, which is all about then when, you know, either the sun or the moon sort of can't share their light with us. And that makes us think about what's hidden within us and what are we sort of not seeing and taking for granted. I get the sense that this is like prep time. So this is about who am I truly, and how comfortable do I feel that I know myself, so that when we're walking through, these wonderful things are coming in, and we can actually trust that each step is going to be moving us to where we want it to, even if, like with your spaceship, we can't see how it's all coming together. I think that the universe might be playing a few tricks with us at the moment in terms of making sure that we do that work, but it's almost in order to align us with our intuition once and for all. Yeah. So that then going forward for the next whole year, we're going to be able to really make the very best decisions for us in all occasions, irrespective of what anybody else tells us. And that whole, you know, moving into Taurus with Uranus in Taurus, you know, really radical way of choosing what we value, Taurus, and also what we're going to build. It's like the only way to actually navigate through that properly is going to be by completely understanding and knowing our own minds and our own souls. You know, it's the soul's way forward now that we've got to be aligned with.
Right, and that divine like mind, the heaven on earth that we've been talking about, is this soul's willingness to cooperate with the divine, like with what you know deep inside, and not cooperate with anything external, like not to be giving your power away to conditioning really, or programming, or I should do. It's much more this idea that your personal will is merging with your higher will, and then the outcome of that is naturally heaven on earth. Like it's naturally a reality that you would desire to be in. And just like you say, that's not always a linear process. Like when a baby is forming, it's not like, right, we'll do the spine and then we'll do the flesh and then we'll put the skin on. It doesn't work like that. It's emerging and unfolding and presenting itself to us as we walk through it, right? Like it's what we talked about the other week with the ends and the means being one and the same. It's this union with the divine as we walk in the world, each step being a beautiful part of that journey, and less like outcome focused, linear oriented.
Yeah, I almost feel as though we've had a reset with this new moon. Very interesting, at the precise time Pluto, the planet of transformation, was rising in Capricorn, and it's almost like it's only by going through that real rebirth and including the chaotic elements of it, you know, that point when we don't know how it's all going to come together, but you have to sort of really deeply trust. that we're actually going to be able to make it through to all the various bits and pieces that we want to build. I wouldn't be at all surprised that people have found this last sort of little weekend challenging, because it's been like an all system refresh. It's not just an MOT, it's like we've been rebuilt. And right now, so also with this, we've got Venus square Pluto. So that is really shaking up our sense of relationships and our sort of sense of maybe how we want to be appearing, and the femininity, and all of our sort of all the soft side of life is getting a bit of a hard edge. And then we're also going to have Sun square Pluto later this week, and similarly that is also making us, it's challenging us to redefine who we are. So these pieces, you know, they're in the mix. So there's lots and lots of beautiful things going on. But the key thing now, I think, is all about getting those foundations right, so that when we move into that sort of more Taurian energy, that we're actually then just able to relax with it. So I would really encourage anyone who's feeling that they need to take some time out, you know, sort of reflect on what is coming up for them. Are they getting triggered by stuff? What can they do about it? You know, tuning in, the meditation, and also, of course, setting the intentions, because often the intentions will actually help put context for any challenges that we're getting. Because quite often when we really want something, the first thing that comes up is all the stuff we don't want. So by seeing the things that actually are sort of snagging us at the moment, we can actually tune into what feels much more true for us. And so intention wise, very much, I know we talked about the blank piece of paper, but doing one of those for both this sort of lunar month and also for the lunar year might be very fruitful.
Great idea. So 2 pieces of paper, one for this lunar month, bit of a heart dump, one for this lunar year. A nice, lovely, like, and you might want to sing it, dance it, paint it, draw it, Pinterest board it, like, you know, get into the juices of it even more. Because I think even since a month ago, where we were dreaming in Pisces, a lot of those dreams were very intangible for me. There were feelings, there was a sense of something. Now I'm starting to receive more physical, like, motifs in my mind of like a picture image, like a vignette that represents that, like I'm feeding a molly lamb or taking a horse out on a beach walk or something, and like little vignettes that represent that lifestyle to me. And you know, I just feel so inspired by everything that you're sharing, because it's this depth of the river below the river, right? Like, we can't change the twists and turns. There's going to be, like, no one said this is going to all be a walk in the park, right? But like, I think what you're saying is drop into the river below the river, where there is peace, where there is harmony. Meditate into that soul where there is this loving, unconditional vibration. And then everything that's happening on the surface in your everyday experience, you're more able to handle, and you're not going to necessarily suffer with it. You're not going to get dragged through and pushed and pulled around. You feel it, you may encounter the pain, but it's not so much about these things that happen to us. It's then that we're able to respond to those things with that wisdom and with that heart, and that holding of our own self as our own divine being in a more kind of safe way, like in a really loving way.
Excuse me, we seem to have drilling upstairs suddenly.
Flipping a bit, glitching.
So hopefully you'll be able to hear me okay, otherwise I might have to go and get my headphones. Can you hear me okay?
It's a bit fuzzy.
Okay.
Shall I
hang on a second?
Drop and ring back in with you? That's fine. Oh. Okay, love, do you want to drop back in? Okay, I'll just let you go then.
No.
Okay, she'll dial back in, I'm sure, in just a second, folks. So how is this resonating so far for you all? Does this feel true? How are you peeling back the layers right now in your life? Maybe we'll just take a couple of minutes together. If you've got those 2 pieces of paper, I just want to invite you to like grab them, have a bit of a brain dump, heart dump for this next month. You know, from now until 12th of May, around there, what is it that is important to you? What do you love? What do you want to include? What do you want to stir in the pot? What are you asking for? And include feelings that you want to experience. And then the same for the year. you know, this year, with everything you've just been through, with your own learnings and growth and troubles and challenges through this last year of the pandemic, what's now priority for you? A lot of us have lost people or gone through a lot of difficult times, and it's changed our priorities, right? It's changed our perception in some instances. What is now most important, and what do you want to prioritize for the coming lunar year? Kai says, I love the idea of the vignettes and the tasters of how the year might pan out. Yeah, thanks, Kai. I love that too. It's kind of like I've been doing a more of a kind of like thorough job of understanding how my guides sometimes speak to me, because I've started teaching that kind of stuff, and I've had to become a bit more aware of some of the ways I receive communication. And one of them is those little word pictures, almost little vignette of a scene, and I'll just see myself doing something or in a particular experience, and it can be a very small, humble thing. It's not, you know, it's never usually particularly grand, but it reflects something. It has a bigger meaning, or it's a metaphor. Dale says, this feels so true, and I need to be reminded that it's not linear, not a walk in the park, but can trust, set intentions. Yes. At first I didn't understand what was happening through had a penny drop moment. Oh, good, Fiona. Oh, feel free to share more about that if you'd like to. Vicky's back. Completely true. The weekend I felt as though, this is Debs, the burned layers were peeling away. I felt that too, Debs. Today, a great sense of personal tenderness, gentleness and peace. My soul knows. Absolutely. Amazing, Vicky. So glad to welcome you back. Do you want to just try and, there we go. There you are. Beautiful. All right. Thank you. Thanks for staying with us, folks.
Oh.
We've covered so much ground, Vicky, but I didn't want to leave it without, you know, wrapping things up and saying goodbye. So thanks for joining us again.
Oh, it's been absolutely lovely. Always a treat to come and talk. So fantastic.
Oh, so good. So good. There's been some gems today, Vicky. Well, I'm going to let everybody go and get on with these exercises. We've got the 1-pager for the month, 1-pager for the year. We just want to hear how this goes. We've got an amazing event coming up on May the 1st. We're going to be virtual streaming throughout the day. But Vicky, when can they tune in with you again? 26th for the full
26th for the full moon. Yeah, we've got full moon in Taurus.
Oh, yeah. No, the full moon is in Taurus?
Yes. No, the full moon, sorry, is in Scorpio, because we're in Taurus. Scorpio. Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
Forgive me.
So the 26th, mark your calendars, 2 weeks today. It'll be Monday, it'll be 1 o'clock. And it will be me and Vicky, 1 o'clock, and you. And it will be the full moon in Scorpio.
In Scorpio, yes. Because it's the opposite. It's going to be a deep one, of course. So quite exciting.
Yeah. Beautiful. And you can chat with us then about how things are going. And well, of course, a year from now, that will be the most exciting one to see where this
won't it just?
All right, everyone, stepping into the unknown together. Lots of love to you. Thank you so much, Vicky. See you in the meeting room soon.
Bye.